Good evening, Rangers. Welcome to Morphin Monday. I'm Chris, and this is Cretoni Entertainment. It's actually a Tuesday that we're uploading this, but who's going to know other than the fact that I just said this here? Anyway, we're going to get into some more Ranger Painter videos starting now, and we're going to start today with the Hyperforce team, and specifically Hyperforce Pink. It did the Mighty Morphin Pink Ranger first, did Zeo Ranger 1 first. It just feels right to continue the trend and go Hyperforce Pink first. I think her name is Chloe. Honestly, I don't remember. I'm not in a great spot for that right now, but we're going to start with some of our Citadel Black Templar because we're going to go a little bit of a different approach today. I'm going to do a almost entirely Citadel contrast paint job on Hyperforce Pink, and we're going to get to a point where we could technically call this model done if we wanted to call it done, but we're not going to stop there. We're going to take it just one layer higher, so you'll be able to see the difference between just a quick contrast paint and then even adding just one additional highlight on top of that. So we're going to start with this Black Templar, and we're going to focus in on the boots. You'll see there we're looking at the back, and then all the artworks I can find of the Hyperforce Ranger. There's like an almost triangular shape to the upper back, and then the Ranger color goes all the way through the back. So I took a bit of an artistic liberty here. The sculpt doesn't really lend itself to that, and being on the back of the Ranger, I don't think it's going to make a big deal. So I used the natural seam in the back as the dividing point for the Black Templar before getting into the pink. I also, you'll notice, don't do all the black correctly on Hyperforce Pink here at first, because I completely didn't pay attention to the fact that I didn't paint one of her arms, and I had not looked at a reference for her scythe because, you know, I'm apparently a professional at this and never make any sort of mistakes. But we're going to come back and we're going to fix that later. So after we get our Black Templar done, we've got actually a pretty striking looking Ranger here over our light gray undercoat as per usual. You'll see I went back and I painted the scythe there, and I painted the fingers of the gloves in the black. And at this point, I had still forgotten to do the right arm, but I promise you it's coming later. But for the moment, we're going to go into the next color on this Ranger. And the next color on this Ranger is, of course, going to be the predominant color of any pink Ranger. It's going to be a pink. So in this case, it's volupus pink or volupus pink, or I'm not sure how they actually want you to pronounce that. But we're going to use this Citadel Contrast Pink. And you'll see as it's going on, it's got more of a magenta, or like even a hint of purple, or if you really want to be kind of that douchey about it, you could call it a garnet hue, and I do want to be that douchey about it. I'm a Florida State graduate, so garnet and gold, we kind of bleed that, which is it's a maroon mixed with purple is what it is. So it's a very dark color. It's probably not what we want our final Ranger to look like, but that's okay because, like I said, we're going to do a basic paint job, then we're going to come back. So as we continue putting on this volupus pink, you may have noticed in the scythe, I just painted the entire scythe in the pink. I know by the art on the cards and whatnot, the scythe itself is a combination of silver and pink, and we're going to come back to that later. It's just easier for us to cover the entire thing in the contrast paint, let the dark colors get into the seams, and come back and touch it up later. Of course, you're going to see a few liberties on that as well. I did not sit here and try to perfectly replicate the silver and the pink on the scythe. When I come back to it later, you'll just kind of see I put silver where I thought it'd kind of be cool to put silver on. So as we continue going with the pink, I want to mention that we are back. I am going to try to get back on my one-a-week schedule for painting videos. I do want to keep going with some battle report videos as we go. I'm probably not going to do a lot of strategy or game theory videos going forward, but I will address some other games that I haven't talked about before. Like I said, show some battle reports. And if I do like cool campaign stuff with my local group, I kind of want to do some videos on that as well. But I think we're going to refocus on the painting videos because that seems to be what everybody likes. So that's what we're going to be getting back to. You'll also notice I've got a new camera angle. I've got a new background. And I've got some different lighting than before. I'm not sure I'm a huge fan of the angle just yet. I was trying to find something that's a little easier to paint with the camera going. So we're going to experiment with that. So bear with us on that as we kind of work it out. But it is nice, but I'm noticing I'm getting a lot of blur in and out as I'm trying to paint, and a few times my hand kind of wanders out of frame, but that's a practice issue for me. You also may have noticed in the bottom of her base, I've got 4 magnets glued to this Ranger. I went ahead and actually magnetized all of my Heroes of the Good figures. On the little bases for like the putties, I did 3 magnets. On the Rangers, I did 4. These are little, I think they're 2mm by 1mm rare earth magnets. And I'll get a little further on that as we go into the Runefang steel here. So we're going to go on to the next color, and we're going to pick out all the metallic parts on Hyperforce Pink. And while we're doing that, You know, I went on Amazon. I think I bought 150 magnets for something like $7. Had to buy multiple packs to cover all of my Ranger stuff, and then I bought a series of 12-inch by 12-inch stainless steel plates, also from Amazon. I think they were like $5 or $6 each. And I used some construction adhesive to actually put those in the cardboard boxes. And now I've got Rangers stored inside the cardboard boxes. If anybody's interested, I'll do a quick, just a really quick, 2-3 minute video showing kind of how I have it in there and how I have all my Rangers being stored. It still takes more than one box, but it's nice to kind of have everything in one spot. The painted models aren't touching each other anymore. I don't have to go and spring for a lot of foam. It was a relatively cheap storage solution, and I get to use the cool artwork from the Ranger boxes to store it. So as you see, we're going through the Runefang Silver. It's a Runefang Steel. It's a very bright metallic, and we kind of come up with this result. You'll see this is kind of what I did with the scythe there. I did not look at any reference at all, like I said, and you'll notice I took a liberty on this where the jacket or the shirt piece meets. I noticed on all the art for Hyperforce Black, there's actually a red spot there, and then on the other ones it's just all black, and there's a nice molded detail there, and I just really thought the silver would pick it out and make it pop. So to finish off our basic paint job in this Ranger, we pull out our Citadel Abaddon Black and we water it down a fair bit. So you can see it's not covering particularly well because it is very watered down. That's okay. I'm ultimately going to have a very thick layer of this on here. It's going to be completely black by the time I'm done. But this is going to take 2 or 3 layers with this watered down, and it's going to prevent a little bit of clumping on these bases and just make it in such a way that the base is relatively smooth and flat by the time I'm finished. But, just dip my paintbrush in water, dip it in the Abaddon Black, and I'm just kind of painting around her boot and under the scythe and just on the top of the base. And we come back and you'll see I put another layer on there, so it's much thicker now. It's still a little wet, but it's much thicker now, so it's going to be nice and solid. And we actually have a done Hyperforce Pink theoretically. It's not where I want to finish. That's why we're going to move into Citadel Shading Ulm Oil. But we could stop here and say, yes, we have a Pink Ranger. She's got her pink. She's got the black on her. She's got the silver. She looks like Hyperforce Pink, just not fantastic. So we're going to go and just do a couple of steps to really ramp it up. We're going to take this Nuln Oil and we're going to put it everywhere that the silver is. And this is going to darken up the silver. And when I put it on the scythe here, it's going to pool into the recesses at the edges of the silver and leave some definition between the pink and the silver. You'll notice I'm being a little sloppy. I'm not worried about a shade overflow here because all of that Volupus pink is going to be highlighted shortly anyway, so any black wash that we get on it is not really going to make a big difference. So we're going to do the shoulder pads. You can just see the difference between the right and left shoulder pad just from that one layer. It gets down into that groove and really just makes the definition pop in the laziest everyman way possible. I've said it on multiple videos. We're not going for award-winning miniatures here. We're going for minis that look good from about 3 feet away. We know we're going to be handling them a lot in the game. A lot of us don't have great storage solutions for them, so they may be bouncing around inside our boxes. We're not going to spend 4 hours, 6 hours, 10 hours on a paint job for a Ranger. That's going to be a predominantly play piece. It's just not going to be something I'm interested in doing as a hobbyist at this point. And that's hopefully why you're watching this channel. I'm sure you watch channels with much better painters than me, but this is why we do our everyman approach. So next we're going to jump into our Squid Pink. If you've watched the Zeo Ranger 1 episode and you watched the Mighty Morphin Pink episode, you'll recognize this color. It's the same shade of pink I used for all of them. I'm probably going to use very similar shades for all of my Rangers, except actually Hyperforce Yellow. I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach than I did for the Mighty Morphin Yellow. But what I'm going to do with this Squid Pink is I'm going to wet my brush, and I'm apparently going to have major focus problems here. And I'm just kind of demonstrating where I'm going to highlight here. So I'm going to pick out some details on the scythe. I'm going to come back and finish that probably off camera, around like the legs here. Anywhere there's any sort of crease in the mold, I'm going to leave the Volupus pink to make things look a little bit darker. And I'm just going to do the Squid Pink over the top of it. Same thing on like the gauntlets. I'm going to just very carefully with a thin brush put a little bit of this pink in there, and I'm going to leave the Volupus in the deepest recesses near the silver to add a little bit of definition. And when I do the whole Ranger like that, you can see she's still wet. I'm going to do another coat on her legs later to kind of really make it pop, but you can see we still have that darker color underneath. We have the lighter on top. It's a very basic highlight. Creates a very striking Ranger. All I have left to do is the pink around the rim, which I will do off camera since everything's still so wet. But in the meantime, that's going to about wrap this video up. Thank you all for watching. Hit that like and subscribe, and we'll be back next week with the next Hyperforce Ranger. Thank you for staying subscribed in these slow times of production.